Welcome to Travel Market Life. I'm Ryan Haynes, your host, and in this series, we are exploring technology in hotels. If you had a chance, check out Hotel Tech Clinic, the COVID-19 Recovery Masterclass, where we spoke to a number of senior leaders and thought leaders within the space of technology for hotels, looking at everything from cloud infrastructures, robotic process automation, robots, staff management, and utilizing guest messaging systems, as well as the importance of integrations and system interfaces. Today, we're going to be speaking to Micah Estis Green, the CEO and founder of Maidbot. In previous episodes, you would have seen we've spoken about blockchain and cryptocurrency, and soon we're going to be looking at the role of upselling within revenue management for hotels. I'm going to bring in Micah Estis Green now. Hello there. How are you doing?
Hey, great to see you again, Ryan. Doing great. Nice to see you face so soon.
Yes, just after Hotel Tech Clinic, where we had quite an intense discussion looking at the role of new technologies and really technologies that have been on the horizon, but those that are really becoming quite prominent in being cost effective and improving efficiencies within hotels. From your perspective, because you are from a long line of hoteliers, a family of hoteliers, you caught on to the role of technology quite early. And what was your experience when you first were working in a hotel and dealing with perhaps archaic systems or the role of technology and the impact it has on employees?
Totally, yeah. So I actually went to Cornell University and studied hospitality management. And in that program, we worked as front desk agents, bellhops, working as room attendants and cleaning the rooms themselves. And that was where the aha moment came from. It was crazy to me that they've been doing the same process at this teaching hotel for over 100 years. The latest and greatest innovations were the walkie-talkie and clipboard. So just saw a big opportunity there, and really it came back to the labor side, and really looking at the fact that there's huge vacancies in the industry. Pre-COVID, there's about 1 million open positions in the U.S. alone, and that transcends around beyond the U.S. around the world. So that was the spark, and did robotics back in high school, and realized that you could essentially mesh the two together and bring technologies like robotics to help alleviate some of those problems.
I mean, just tell us a bit about the Maidbot so we really understand what it is and how it's a robot.
Totally. So our robot is essentially a mini self-driving car that focuses on cleaning floors, commercial floors of hotel guest rooms, corridors, meeting space, all the way to office space and airports and stadiums. So leveraging very similar technology to self-driving cars. And being able to navigate in new spaces and work alongside the staff and help take that on while they do other tasks and responsibilities. So that's the general product. And then what we started to hear from clients was that it's a computer on wheels. And this robot is going every square foot of a building pretty much every day. So you can leverage that and the sensing technologies to actually get a lot of information on what's going on in a property, both operationally and in the environment side. That you can't, a human can't see or know themselves.
So how big are these robots, these little Maidbots? Are they quite large devices, or they come in different sizes?
Yeah, so our first robot is about 9 pounds, smaller scale. So in terms of form factor, similar size to what you might see in the consumer market, so that we can really get into tight spaces, bedrooms, really complex areas. And the idea there was, what if we could actually have a fleet or multiple robots work together and act as one in bigger spaces? Whereas if you have a bigger unit, it can't get into rooms, it can't get into the tighter areas. So leverage that approach, and then we've been able to build that out as well for bigger public spaces. You have kind of a swarm of robots working together to clean those spaces.
That must be mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah.
All in coordination. So do you have to train these robots to actually do the job, or do they figure it all out themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So initially, and I'll take a step back. So commercial robotics traditionally takes months to integrate, if not years. When people talk about weeks, it's like you put your hands up and go bananas, because that's huge. What we're looking at doing is getting a robot deployed and set up within a day, or a fleet of
Wow.
robots for a new property. So in the past, it's taken us weeks, and that includes mapping, validation, testing, training, all of that. But our next iteration of the robot is going to be enabled for drop shippability. So essentially what that means is we drop ship it just like, you get your Amazon package or, product at home. And then the users would be able to set it up within an 8-hour shift. And the robot would build those maps from scratch. There'd be training videos and other, tools to accommodate that, and really get up and running very quickly.
And I mean, when it comes to identifying the need for these robots and the type of hotel you are, how do you assess how many robots that you need to do the job? I mean, do you have to look at the square footage, or is it the number of housekeepers you have, or is it down to the number of rooms?
Yeah, so it definitely depends operationally. We've had some clients that want just rooms. We've had some that want just public spaces, and we've had some that want both. So it depends on that factor. But traditionally, we've targeted more of the branded hotels, and typically like mid-scale to upper scale luxury segments as well. And typically it's about 1 robot per 17 rooms if you want to clean rooms. And then it's about 1 robot per 80 rooms if you're just focused more on the public spaces, just as general math there. So we have some clients that just have 4 robots, just cleaning public spaces and, cleaning the hallways and taking that load off. Whereas we have others that have more, and some clients that have signed for up to 90 robots to clean, rooms and bigger areas as well.
Wow, 90 robots. So how much do these robots cost?
Yeah. So we do a lease model. So it's robots as
Right.
a service, and just given the fact that it's more of an operating expense and helping alleviate that. So it definitely depends, but our early adopter pricing is $200 per robot per month, and a 2-year lease.
Right. Okay. So there's no down payment. You essentially can get it. You get working on it, and if it works for you, it works for you, and hopefully you can optimize that with your housekeeping team. And what sort of processes do you suggest for hotels in preparing the workforce to work alongside robots?
Yeah. So what's interesting is when you look at any technology, it's you got to start with the user and really think through that user story, or stories. In the housekeeping departments that we've seen at certain hotels, they might speak 10 languages. They could be from all over the world. And with that, comes universability, essentially, right? And making it so anybody can use these robots. So a lot of that came on the front end for the design. But one thing that was really interesting that we found is rather than kind of pushing these robots onto the staff and saying, you must use these robots, we found it was easier to adopt in the public spaces, so like corridors, pre-function areas. And starting with like the housemen or house aides who focus on those areas. And we start there, and then what happens is the room attendants actually will start to notice that these robots are cleaning and taking that load off. And rather than kind of a push and forced approach of you must use these robots, they start to see the value. They start to hear it from the user, the houseman, house aide, and start to want robots on their own. So that's been a really interesting approach to create more of a pull for the robotics in the first place. And then I think, it's really, right now is a really interesting time because, we haven't touched on COVID quite yet, but there's a huge push towards minimizing human-to-human interaction, just increased cleanliness standards. And when you increase cleanliness standards, that inherently means more work. That inherently means more touch points. And that's going to take longer, right? So we look at this as a way to help alleviate some of that, minimize the human-to-human interaction for certain public spaces, as well, and then really take more of that load off because people are starting to work more overtime in certain properties and where there are more touch points. So those are some of the findings we've seen and what we think about.
I mean, you're right. I mean, as you say, the number of vacancies for housekeepers and cleaners within hotels worldwide has been huge pre-COVID-19. And now with the need to reduce overheads to keep costs as low as they possibly can do, but most importantly, to meet new COVID-19 cleaning standards.
Yep,
and that's going to be the biggest challenge, and helping housekeepers and cleaners stay on top of those. without neglecting any of the key responsibilities. And it's I guess, as you say, it's about alleviating them from some of the heavy manual work so they can focus on some of the areas that are going to add the value, or are going to really target the more vulnerable areas when it comes to sanitation and cleanliness.
Exactly. Yep. It's just a new standard. And I think, of course, there's also the idea that, hotels inherently have been clean, but there's also just the kind of conception of it too, and the perception of what's going on and what's being cleaned, and what are the extra steps, what are the extra layers to get there. So I think that's something that guests are starting to be curious about. And now that vacations are going back up and people are feeling a little more comfortable to start to go, at least drive to new locations, that we're going to see that as becoming a new standard.
There's always that quick need to turn around a room as fast as possible, and who knows what that means for COVID-19 and how many hours or days you might have to leave a room empty. But I guess there's certain tasks that could actually be done in the middle of the night, like the vacuuming in large spaces or in public spaces, so that actually it's not disrupting the guests. And I guess that also means that it's at a time when maybe you can't bring cleaners or housekeepers into the property to work. They're better off just working to turn the rooms around and to turn the public spaces around for food, beverage, restaurant, whatever it is, and to put those larger tasks, as you say, to robots who are able to do the task and report with that analytics. And with all that data, how does that data go from the robot, and does it go into a particular system, like the property management system, or how are those reports compiled, and how can hotels use that to the best of their ability?
Yeah, totally. So we've been in a customer discovery process on the data side, because that was something newer for us in our first deployment that came up. So one of the specific use cases was, hey, we're an airport hotel, and we have business staff or business guests that come in and need Wi-Fi. They're working, right? So, and the number one complaint was that Wi-Fi was down, and they'd have to go into the lobby, and who wants to necessarily go to the lobby when they could just work from their room? So with that, we started to think about, okay, we're already collecting Wi-Fi signal strength as something on our robot. Could we deliver that to the client as something that they could look at and say, hey, this room has poor Wi-Fi, sell this other room. Or, hey, fix the access point here, because it's not a linear problem where once you fix it, it's good forever. So that introspection was really valuable to them in that side. And that honestly started as an Excel spreadsheet with data. And then we've evolved that and are building out more like consumer facing or customer facing dashboards as well. So that's one use case, but operationally being able to understand, which areas are being cleaned, which rooms are being cleaned, how long it might take, and introspection into the operations has been really important for guests or for the operators. And then being able to look at data that might impact the guest. So Wi-Fi signal strength is one, or dust, the dirtiest areas, it could be another. So being able to be more proactive on that data side. So those are certain use cases, and then we're continuing to build out an actual client-facing dashboard to accommodate that data.
It's the Internet of Things. What a phenomenal expansion of capabilities. And it's one where we've seen it start really in the consumer world and is only now starting to enter the world of business. Most of the IoT devices that are in hotels at the moment are for the guests. They're for guest interaction. And it's beautiful to imagine this robot wandering the halls and corridors and rooms and assessing everything that's happening at that point. And I guess it has a potential to detect so many aspects about the hotel, from atmospheric conditions through to security risk, as well as, you say, how good is the quality and delivery of existing services like your Wi-Fi, or or other communications devices. I mean, when it comes to IoTs, I mean, are there sort of any innovations that have really caught your eye in the last couple of years where you're thinking, wow, I wish I thought of that? Or you're sort of thinking, how else can I incorporate that into Maidbot?
Totally, yeah. So I think there's been a lot, and I think sensing capabilities is really interesting, right? So when we look at our robot specifically, we look at it as a platform, and being able to stick on new sensors to gather more information that could add value to the operator is really interesting. So for example, right, like bed bug detection. What if our robot could help with that, and that as a sensing capability is really interesting. And then being able to tie data to guest experience too. And I think it depends on the company and how comfortable they are with this stuff, but being able to know, hey, you like your room at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, right? And being able to come in and your room is set there. It's not 65 and you're freezing, right as you walk in, or 78 and you're burning up, but like walking into what you want to experience. So I think the sensing is really interesting, and just sensors that can be applied in the physical world. And then applying that data for a better guest experience and being proactive on that. So, I think the best service in some ways is no service needed, where you walk in and you get exactly what you want. Where, when you sit at a restaurant, you might get a glass of water before you ask. You might get the drink you wanted before you ask. Things like that could really improve and create a new layer of a guest experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And so at the moment, are your Maidbots available worldwide? What's your geographic cover so far?
Yeah, so far we've deployed more locally. So we're based in Austin, Texas, in the US. So we're in Texas, so that's Dallas, Houston, and Austin. And then we've also deployed in Denver, Colorado. So those are where we've actually have live robots out. We're looking to be more geographically focused, so US based to start, and then expanding internationally. And we're working on our next iteration of the robot that essentially will enable this drop shipping and scalability that we didn't have before, so that we can expand to new markets much more quickly. So I'd say 2021 is really going to be the year that we see ourselves being able to expand very quickly, and the hockey stick curve. In a sense.
Excellent. Yeah. And I really think that we're going to see much more consideration of different types of technologies and how they can be applied. And the more, I guess, people see these things in action and the benefits and the opportunities from them, the more that they can see the return of investment as well at the same time, and how they can make a hotel much more efficient than it has been. And obviously, address some of those issues that you mentioned at the beginning, from too many vacancies, skills, time, that many hotels obviously suffer from. How big is your team?
Yeah, so our team now is about 18 people.
Wow. Okay. So. Yep. And are they mainly engineers, and are they constantly working and innovating on what Maidbot's capabilities are?
Yeah, so definitely more engineering heavy, which is great to be able to really expand the capabilities and product development fronts. And I'd say we look at our team as kind of a platform in itself. Everybody plays a very important role that would enable building essentially any robot. So we have electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, manufacturing engineers. We have robotic software engineers, back-end, front-end software engineers. So, really this full stack approach, so that we can get into many, many things in the future beyond floor cleaning or cleaning altogether.
Excellent. Wonderful. Micah, thank you ever so much for joining us today on Travel Market Life. It was wonderful to speak to you again.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take it easy.
And if they want to get in contact with Maidbot, what's the website?
Yep, our website's www.maidbot.com.
Wonderful. Thank you again for joining us. Wish you all the best during lockdown and as we come out of that as well.
Yep.
That was Micah Estis Green, the president and founder of Maidbot. We're going to be coming to you very soon with more episodes looking at hotel technology from our Hotel Tech Clinic. Please check out our Hotel Tech Clinic and the COVID Recovery Masterclass on travelmarket.life. We'll be back with you very soon. I've been Ryan Haynes, your host. Ciao for now.